What's up, guys? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his depression. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Eric. My channel's all about ADHD, PTSD, depression, anxiety, mental illness, sobriety, just making sure that nobody goes through life alone. I'm in my garage still due to the quarantine here in California, and wanted to share about Dwayne Johnson. The reason, The Rock, I've always been a big fan of The Rock. I've been a big fan of The Rock when he was wrestling to as an actor. I think that he's a funny guy. Not a lot of people sometimes realize that he's went through massive depression in his life. And the more that we share about this, and the more that you find people maybe that you look up to, or people that you're inspired by, of what they've been through in life, helps reinforce the fact that, hey, what I'm going through is temporary, that I can get help, that I can reach out, and that I can fight forward too. That's the whole purpose and the point of it all, is to never give up and keep going. Dwayne Johnson, I mean, if you look at The Rock, I mean, it's everything everybody ever wants. You know, he's a handsome guy. He's in a ton of movies. He's a blockbuster star, money, all of that. We think that all that in our life sometimes will bring us happiness. It doesn't. And it's a given, and it's shown time after time after time that it's not. When it comes down to going through depression, when it goes through going through anxiety, a lot of that, it's in our head, and it's a chemical imbalances, and there's different things going on that physical items don't necessarily help with. Dwayne Johnson's a good example because if you don't know much about The Rock, he ended up growing up, his dad was a professional wrestler. He ends up going to the University of Miami on football. That was his passion. And I know that we've all had passions and stuff before in life. I've had a lot of different people reach out to me even going, you know, my passion is hockey, my passion is soccer. This is what I really find a lot of joy in. Well, he goes to the University of Miami on scholarship, ends up getting hurt. And that wrecked him. And he ended up opening up and sharing about this a little while back, of the depression episodes that he went through, of that hopelessness feeling, not wanting to get out of bed, skipping classes, getting to the point that he felt that he was a burden, that what was the point of life? And that's essentially what depression is. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, I'm none of that. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. Having major depressive disorder, I understand that. Having depression doesn't always also mean that we're going to be frowning and we're going to be unhappy and that doom and gloom the whole entire time. We have our moments. It's like waves that hit. So you're going to have some high moments that you're going to feel good, and you're going to have some low moments that get almost out of control and out of hand. I might have gotten to the point where I became suicidal and even attempted suicide. The next couple of days, though, once I work through it, doesn't mean that I'm not happy again, but it also doesn't mean that, hey, guess what, I cured this. So Dwayne Johnson ends up going through this, and during this time, his mother actually had suffered with depression, and there are genetic links to depression, to some of the mental illnesses out there that are genetically linked. Even when it comes to addiction, it's something that is linked genetically, and it's proven by science, and you can look at any of the popular science magazines out there. The biggest statement out of everything, if you read the articles on him, is one, you can tell easily that he had depression. You know, the hopelessness, not wanting to leave his dorm room, sitting in the dark, you know, being trapped in your thoughts. And you're literally almost like treading water in life, and you don't feel that there's a point to anything. And the hardest thing to do is to speak out about it, especially if you're a guy. Because guys, we have really big egos. We're not very emotional creatures in a lot of these cases. And so it's very hard for us to share about depression because our brain re-justifies to us that everybody has it worse than me. What am I bitching about? I should be grateful, and I don't want to burden people with my problems, and my problems aren't that big. And our self-talk, even though it's very damaging to us, downgrades in a way when we want to talk out what we're going through. It literally kind of almost reverse bullying, going, well, what you're going through isn't really that bad. You shouldn't really talk about that. And so as soon as we're halted from speaking out about it, and we go back into that dark room, and we go back into, hey, I haven't changed my clothes for 4 days. Our brains go, hey, you're hopeless. It's not going to get any better. It's worthless. And the negative self-talk almost kind of changes. At least mine has, and that's what I've experienced. And that's one of the things that makes it so hard to speak out and reach out about. When I went through depressive episodes, though, I was reading this about The Rock. And the one thing that really inspired me is, one, the first step of him really starting to work through his depression, because there's a lot of process of working through it. Now, not all depression is chemical based. There are cases, though, where it's a lack of dopamine, lack of chemicals in your brain, so there is a brain imbalance, and that's why there's medications for it. And some of the depression you can even, in a sense, work through. And I don't mean that, yeah, go start working out and all that, and all of a sudden you're going to be cured and you're going to be healed and you got this. That's not always the case, but it's trial and error to find out what works for you. His biggest thing, just like with mine, was that inability and that difficulty reaching out. And he did something that I also did. You didn't go to anybody else, you'd go to your mom. And I have to admit it, that I really respected that. That was the first person that I went to. And his mom even opened up about suicidal ideation, because that is what depression is. I mean, we feel hopeless, we feel there's an end. And he ends up opening up to his mom, and he said that the biggest thing and the best thing that he ever did was to start opening and being open about what he was going through and the depression that he was going through. And that's the true strength. I mean, the strength really is, and that's what would impress me so much, is the fact that he was willing to be open and start sharing about it. And he goes into, even in some of the interviews, talking about taking ownership of your depression. And the more that you speak about it, the more that you're empowered by it. The more that you don't feel defeated by your depression and your depression owns you. The more that you're sharing about it, the more that your brain is taking ownership of that and saying, you know what, I got this. And it's one of those things that helped him push through. And just because you see somebody even like him that's happy at times doesn't mean that he's always going to be happy and that, oh my God, that's the life that I want. But here's a great example of somebody that worked through. And one of the things that I'm a huge believer in, because it worked for me too, is he found another passion. He got into wrestling and then he got into movies. And it was always setting those goals and working forward and stepping himself up. And that's helped me out a lot. And don't get me wrong, meds have helped me out too. If I'm off my Adderall, I'm pretty screwed when it comes to my mental state. I'm pretty screwed when it comes to depression. My Adderall helps keep me in check because of how my thought process works. But he also has done something that I did, and I didn't realize that other people did it until I had really researched into him. He started looking and finding other passions so that you're not just, what do I do with my life? What do I do with my life? And you're living in that stagnant moment where you don't know what you want out of life. You have no passions. You have no goals in life. You have nothing to look forward to. And when we have nothing to look forward to, it starts to rot and eat away at our thought process. And then that's when the negative self-talk is so easy to creep in. That's when we feel that we're a burden to everybody. So we start to isolate from everybody. We start to not talk about it from everybody. And we get stuck in the worst prison in the world, and that's our own thoughts. He ended up speaking out and talking about it, being open about his depression and what he was struggling and what he was feeling. And at the same time, he started finding other things out there that were maybe a new passion. And he's always done trial and error. I mean, he went into, WWE, The Rock. Smell what The Rock is cooking. I'm a huge fan of him. That was actually what got me really excited and into wrestling, just because I enjoyed watching him. And I really love all of his movies too. Seeing him though, and how he is, and this larger than life personality, you don't realize that this is somebody who has battled depression. And in most cases, we still battle depression in life. And we have our high moments and we have our low moments. And when you're out there and you do feel alone, if you want to build up some of that courage to speak out, look into some of the people that you idolize. Get into their story, and you're going to find that there's a ton of people out there that have struggled with depression, that have struggled with ADHD, that have struggled with PTSD, that have struggled with self-harm, that these are not uncommon for a lot of people to go through. So it helps you feel not alone. And that's the worst, is when our brain's telling us that we're alone, Nobody understands. We're alone. Isn't the case. So don't stop and don't give up. The strongest thing you can do if you're going through depression, that I've learned even firsthand, ask for help and start off with family members, start going then to extended family members, go to friends, go to friends' parents, go to anybody and everybody you can asking for help. And you're going to find some people that are going to be willing to help you. And once you get that willing help, find that additional strength to accept the help and not think that you're a burden and now push the help away because it's coming, because that's something that's difficult to do also. I believe in you. I mean, you've made it to today. I'd love you to hit the like and subscribe button. Comment below any of your famous, idols that you look up to and what they've been through, because it's amazing to see how many people have fought through different battles in life when it's come to mental illness. It's very common. 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with a mental illness. And so it's always interesting to see who else has struggled with it and go, God, I'm not the only one. Wait, I have ADHD. Justin Timberlake has ADHD. Wait, I have depression. Dwayne Johnson has depression. Like, oh my God, okay, I'm not alone. Like, I can do this. That's what it's about, and getting that excitement back in you and knowing that you can fight through it. So hit that like and subscribe button. In the description box, there are links to all my social medias. My goal is to really bridge the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy, of experiences, tools, coping, that we can, to make sure that we fight through every single day. I even have links down below to things on Amazon like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, weighted blankets, things that help me when I'm struggling with my anxiety, to help ground me some. Even have a link down below to BetterHelp, because it's trial and error to find out what works for you. And when you find what works for you, you start to see those breakthroughs and you start to see those improvements. And that's what it's about. I believe in you. You're a BAMF. You're a badass motherfucker. You've made it through 100% of your worst days to make it through 2 today. So hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this together.